So, what's the really big deal about this 2.3 to 2.4 upgrade for Adobe Commerce? I mean, you're probably hearing people talk about it all the time. There's a September 8th deadline that's being thrown around. And the reality is, your website's transacting. Is this going to be like it was back in 1999 with the whole Y2K discussions and literally the moment of doom happens at midnight on year 2000? No, not exactly. And I have seen a lot of hype around this, and I would say there's a good portion of it that's just not accurate. My goal in this video is to dial in on what is accurate so that you can make a very informed decision and understand really what the implications are to your business by staying on 2.3 after this September 8th deadline. So let's talk about what is involved and what is not involved, what really matters and what doesn't matter. So the big question here is, if I do not upgrade by September 8th, is my website going kaput? I mean, is it literally like the end of the world, but for my e-commerce property? No, absolutely not. And the people who are saying that are just trying to get an upgrade out of you. Uh, it's poor reasoning, it's poor excuses. I mean, they're not saying exactly that's going to happen, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what they are implying is going to happen. So, no, your website will not die. Nothing significant will happen as a result of this September 8th deadline rolling around. You're going to hear some reasoning like Magento is no longer going to support it. There's going to be, there's no more apps that you can, or modules that you can download off the marketplace, things like that. And okay, I get that. Let's talk about what really is going to happen and to start determine whether an upgrade is good or bad for your business. The number one issue that I look at when it comes to these upgrades relates to PCI compliance. You may or may not have heard that term. If you're in the finance part of your company, you definitely have heard of this term, payment card industries compliance. There's basically a set of rules that defines how a website or how a company, actually, this doesn't apply to a website, it applies to the entire company, should accept credit cards. And there is a rule there that in rule number 6.2 that states we are to protect all system components and software from known vulnerabilities by installing applicable vendor-supplied security patches within a month of release. And here is the problem. If Magento, or as Magento 2.3 goes out of date or out of support, these patches will not be released. And so you could, I guess, argue that, well, if no patches are released, well, then I'm in compliance. But very clearly that is not the case. There is no way that it will be okay to stay on an unsupported version. Now, how is this going to bite you? Are you going to, again, the credit card system is going to stop accepting credit cards the day, well, September 9th. Technically speaking, we have within about a month of grace period. It says within 1 month of release. So it goes end of life. I think it's reasonable to say we have like a month or so to past September 8th. So it'd be October 8th would be a drop dead date there. So all that to say, no, your credit cards are going to still keep working fine. However, the biggest issue is, and I have this in the article that I'm linked down below, the biggest issue is you're going to fail your self-assessment questionnaire, which means that there's going to be extra scrutiny on your website if the bank is actually looking at, and they're supposed to be looking at this. So at the end of the day, no, you're not going to lose it. But here is where the rubber really meets the road. And that is if there is a data breach or a credit card breach where somehow credit card numbers get stolen off your website. And there's a bazillion number of ways that can actually happen. Usually it's going to be through a vulnerability. Now, when all this comes back to you and they're saying, okay, what went on here? And then you have to go through an audit, et cetera. And they've come up that, or it comes up that you're on version 2.3 and you should have been on 2.4, and patches haven't been applied in a while. That's not going to be good. The fines that you will have to pay could be business ending. And it's best, thus, to consider that possibility, even if it might be a 2% possibility or even a 1% in a given year for in your situation. There is a possibility. And it's for that reason that I very strongly recommend an upgrade is considered. Now, does it have to happen within that 1 month window? Probably not. I'm trying to be very reasonable here because I understand it's not always possible, given timelines or budgets, to get the upgrade done quickly like this. You could always, as well, the biggest thing that I suggest is having an upgrade plan in place. Okay, we are investing X amount a month. We believe we have this many months left. So maybe even if it got delayed a little bit past that, in all reality, it's not a good idea, but you have an upgrade plan in place. You are working at accomplishing that plan. That's the most important thing of all in this conversation. Now, what I really dislike about these upgrades is it ultimately can be viewed as a tax. And there's good reason for that because let me back up on this. There are many agencies who do not build Magento websites correctly. And you still pay for that website to be built regardless of whether or not it was built correctly, which means that it ends up being an additional tax every single upgrade because more things break. Websites that are built well generally have far fewer problems with these upgrades. Well, websites that are built poorly have more issues in the upgrade. So by investing in a upgrade and cleanup operation, it saves you time and money down the road. Which also brings me to another point or question that many people ask. Will I have to do this every single year? Well, two things. First, if you do a cleanup and upgrade operation, which is typically what we do, you're not going to have to spend as much on future upgrades. I mean, depending on the size of the site, there's always going to be some spend, but it's not going to be significant. Second, to my understanding and everything that I've heard, there is no plans for a Magento 2.5. Might sound funny, but there are no plans for Magento 2.5, which means there is no significant upgrade like this 2.3 to 2.4 on the roadmap in the future. Could that happen? Definitely. Right now, they are simply incrementing smaller numbers. So 2.4.4 to 2.4.5, 2.4.5 to 2.4.6. That's all the plans are right now. Why? Because Magento 2 is considered a mature product. Since it's mature, there doesn't need to be significant upgrades. All their development is happening on peripheral modules, which means that your core, as it is right now, is almost to the finish line for what really is necessary to keep it up to date. It's just little tiny fixes, and that's been an issue that Adobe has acknowledged over and over again. Is these upgrades can be ridiculously expensive, and again, it's viewed as a tax. Now, all that to say, let's talk about what is involved with this upgrade. It can be a bit of a process, and depending on your site, the size of your site, it is a process. You will get some value out of this. I don't think it will be enough to fully pay for the value, but then maybe in your case, it actually could get somewhat close. There's a few features I'd like to quickly touch on. There's a media gallery that is better. You can use Adobe Stock. It's built in. There's the B2B suite has now an purchase approval workflow. So when one of the people at this company makes a purchase, then it can go to somebody else in purchasing or whatever to verify this is a accurate purchase. Page Builder is better. One really cool set of features is the product recommendations as well as live search. These are now powered by Adobe's Sensei tool, which is artificial intelligence tools that you're paying $500,000, $2,000 more a month for at other companies can be just baked in right to the core for your product. Two-factor authentication, better security, etc. So there's some really good value you'll get out of this. The biggest thing is you just got to use it, and that's where working with a partner who is familiar with this stuff and can help you utilize it, you're going to win in doing that. So the final issue is, what does the process look like? The process is fairly simple. We work through an audit. We go through and we assess everything on your website. We say what is involved with doing this. So out of this audit, this fee for this audit, you get a document for the upgrade steps. You get as well as a estimate for this upgrade. Once you give the go ahead, we jump in. We start doing the cleanup. And the cleanup, there can be some fudge room on this. So usually when we present to you with our audit, it's going to be on the higher end of the cleanup, again, trying to do this cleanup once and done. But there is usually some flexibility depending on budget, which can be dialed back just a little bit, which then ultimately affects the cost, can reduce that a little bit as well. So basically, we work through this. We work through cleaning up the code, upgrading Magento. And a good portion of that time, in our case, is spent on QA, quality assurance, reviewing the website, making sure that it functions exactly or pretty close to exactly as it did previously. Now, this can be where some of the challenges arise. And it's very important is the more of a spec you have for the website. Obviously, we do our best to verify, but as you are able to verify, hey, this works here, and perhaps this broke going to the new site. And it's these type of conversations is where it is very, very important to be incredibly thorough. That's why we have a good budget usually on these upgrades set for thoroughly reviewing every aspect of the website that's feasible. I mean, well, if you wanted us to cover 100% of the website, we would do that. Or, it's usually more of the 80-20 rule. So, not quite that. That's a little dramatic, but it's, let's say 75% of the functionality is tested, or maybe 100% of the critical workflows, and then some testing of the peripheral workflows as well. So all that comes together. Then we send it over to you. We're a little more incremental than that. So you're able to watch and see the progress going through here. You're able to get in and test it, and then we schedule time to take it live. So that is the process and the reasoning behind a Magento 2.3 to 2.4 upgrade.